The rule says that you can't do this, you can't do this. This is what the rules say.
All right, he's a rule guy. But there's more to this story. We love redemption. You know, they pay their debt to society and they decide we're going to turn over a new leaf. And well, let's see where he's at now.
A man found dismembered inside an apartment. Now today, police arrested a man named Sheldon Johnson.
It's called res ipsa loquitur. That's a Latin phrase that means the thing speaks for itself. So you find a fucking head in somebody's freezer and you're the only one that lives there? 1 and 1 is 2. You probably did it. But he's presumed innocent until the corpse proves him guilty.
Carrying cleaning supplies and a full black garbage bag in and out of this building.
When you're doing that looks suspicious. Big black garbage bags filled with what? Body parts? You know, I often will just double check my freezer to make sure there's no severed head in there.
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And it's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your personal board-certified criminal defense lawyer. And today we are with Michael Rivers behind the camera, your content genius. Today we're reacting to Sheldon Johnson, a prison activist who did a lot of time and appeared on Joe Rogan as he was turning his life around. Or was he? Talk about turning your life around. Guess what? Grandma, who lives in my basement, has turned her life around. So much so that now we need to get her into a facility. And when I say she turned her life around, she's really round. I mean, she's been eating Cheetos in my basement like nobody's business. My porn bill has gone up like you wouldn't believe. We had to get a hold of her and redo the power of attorney because we need to get medical power of attorney. We need to get her financial house in order. Grandma needs some help. So we went to eforms.com where you can get a power of attorney. You can get a business agreement. eforms.com. If you need any kind of agreement or any kind of legal form, go to eforms.com. Keep you out of court and keep you away from expensive guys like me. You don't need a lawyer to draft those kind of documents. Go to eforms.com. Very effective way to take care of your grandma regardless of what kind of problems your grandma is facing, like mine.
Caught the gun charge that triggered the felony that it allowed them to be able to sentence me the way that they did in 1994. I also caught another case. At that time, I was what you call giving out consignment on drugs.
All right, Queen's Defenders. You know, I mean, you know what? It's really nice when somebody turns their life around. Sometimes, I always say, sometimes law enforcement intervention can actually save lives, because I've had clients who were just knee-deep in drugs or something else, and, you know, they were just no way for them out of it. So a little bit of prison time got them away from their environment, and actually they turned their life around. So this is actually heartwarming to see.
2 people in particular I gave consignment to, and I ended up getting arrested for a case. And when I sent someone to go pick up the money from them, they kind of just was like, you know, whatever, I'm not paying them. So when I came home, one guy in particular, I ran into him with his girlfriend.
Did you get that case got dismissed, right?
The gun charge?
No, the one that you were away for. You got arrested for something. Mm-hmm. You're in jail.
Yes.
These guys figure since you're in jail, fuck it, we're not going to pay him.
Yeah, I'm not going to pay him.
And then the case that you were arrested for got dismissed.
Got dismissed.
Right,
I got acquitted.
So then you come home.
So then I come home and, you know, I need my money. I need my money.
If you're on the street and that's how you make your money and people know they can rip you off, guess what? They will.
My money. I'm just me being honest. It's just me being straight. You know, I gave you something and we had an understanding that you were going to pay me. And when I came home, when I finally located this particular individual, he had his girlfriend with him. And this guy owed me $5,000 for some drugs that I gave him on consignment. I gave him an eighth of a kilo.
Consignment is another way of saying front. So in the drug trade, a lot of times, you know, you don't have the money up front. So they'll front you some drugs. You go sell them, you got a profit, and then you give them the money. So when you don't pay your drug dealer or your source, it can be a problem for you, especially if it's cartel related.
which is 125 grams of cocaine. And when I saw him, he had a bunch of jewelry on. He was with his girlfriend. She had a bunch of jewelry on. I said, hey, man, where's my money at? Oh, yo, I was going to pay you. As far as I was concerned, his jewelry we was even. So I robbed him. And I took his jewelry. And his girlfriend happened to be there, and unfortunately, she got caught up in the situation. I had a bunch of young guys with me, and they robbed her as well. And he got hit in the head with the gun right here on the side of his head, and he got 2 stitches. And they gave me 25 years for that case.
Did you hit him in the head?
No. One of the guys that I was with hit him in the head. And he identified me in a photo array.
25 years, over $5,000. Now, if you are a drug dealer, or if you are an aspiring drug dealer, think about that. 25 years for $5,000. Is that worth it? I had a guy who was just a mule, and he got 160 months for 17 pounds of methamphetamine hidden in a tire that was intercepted long before it got to our jurisdiction. And he was the nicest guy on the planet. He didn't have any guns. He had a prior drug case. And his guidelines were through the roof. And 160 months was a departure downward. So people are getting murder sentences for drugs. So it's just not worth it.
Unbeknownst to me, he identified me in a photo array. This guy, as far as I was concerned, he was in the streets just like I was. So
right.
I didn't really understand that, like I said, we go back to morals and values and principles and how warped they can be, right?
Right.
In my mind
Remember those, that phrase, morals, values, and principles as we go forward.
time, this is a guy who I gave something to. He's living an illegal life. I'm living an illegal life. So as far as I was concerned at that time, it was fair game. In
Right.
hindsight, as I moved on and I became more mature and I began to reevaluate myself, I realized how wrong that was. But that was later on.
He saw the light. So I just love this. Anybody that is overtly reformed, there's something wrong there.
I was smoking a lot of weed at the time. I was drinking jailhouse hooch, and I was at my worst. And I had to figure out how to get to my best. So I decided to, when I got out of solitary confinement, I did 42 days on the loaf. I went from being 210 pounds to like 168 in like a matter of 7 months. Deflated me. And when I got out, I made a decision that I was going to walk away. And I didn't care about what the consequences was. And I said to myself, I've been doing bad for so long, I'm going to try to do something good.
So it is hard to leave the life because when it's all you know is drugs. It's easy cash. It's what you know. But the feds and the local task forces, they all have network of snitches. So, I mean, you're eventually going to get caught. So the fact that he decides, okay, I'm done with this lifestyle. I'm going to now be my best.
If all else fails, I could always go back to doing bad. But let me try. Let me give it a shot. And I ended up getting to school program. I got my GED. I left the gangs alone, which was a benefit for them because, I was what you call an authoritarian. I was a rule guy. I'm still a rule guy. I like rules. I like rules. I like structure.
Rule guy. Remember that.
Structure.
Morals, rules.
I like things to be a certain way. And it was to their advantage to get rid of me anyway. Plus, I knew a lot of the guys who were at the top.
Why was it to their advantage to get rid of you?
Because I was the type of person who would say, you doing that for what reason? Nah, you can't do that. The rule says that you can't do this, you can't do this. This is what the rules say.
All right, he's a rule guy. But there's more to this story. So, we love redemption, right? We just love it when people, they pay their debt to society and they decide we're going to turn over a new leaf. And let's see where he's at now.
A man found dismembered inside an apartment. Now today, police arrested a man named Sheldon Johnson. He is a criminal justice activist, and he boasted about turning his life around after getting out of prison.
Oh, look, there's Mr. Sheldon Johnson in a Tyvek suit. Why on earth would you be wearing a Tyvek suit?
As recently as going on shows like the Joe Rogan podcast. Now tonight, he is back in handcuffs, and he's facing murder charges. News 4's Ida Siegel is in Highbridge, where the crime scene investigators are still looking for evidence.
That's 48-year-old Sheldon Johnson being walked off in handcuffs, yelling to reporters that he didn't do what cops say he did. Murder.
When you got the hood on of a Tyvek suit and you're being let out by, plainclothes police officers, it's not a good look if you're a prison activist. But maybe it's just a man trying to silence him.
Manslaughter and criminal possession of a weapon. It's a shocking set of charges for a man most recently known for this.
I had a wife. I had family still. My son was growing up. He was hearing stories about my so-called notoriety.
That's Johnson appearing on the popular Joe Rogan podcast, talking about his efforts to reform himself and help other kids detach themselves from gang life, a job he's uniquely qualified for after spending 25 years in prison for attempted murder as a high-ranking member of the Bloods.
Prison does.
I often will just double-check my freezer to make sure there's no severed head in there. What is it with the last couple of videos we've done with head and hands? You remember that kid? And now this guy. I mean, it just seems to be so messy and disgusting. Why would you do that?
Two things to you. It brings out the best or it brings out the worst.
But police say this is also him, here on Summit Avenue Tuesday night, carrying cleaning supplies and a full black garbage bag in and out of this building. Police were called.
When you're doing that looks suspicious. Big black garbage bags filled with what? Body parts? I had a case once where my client's girlfriend was found wrapped in, she was in a tub, like one of those Rubbermaid tubs, or bins, and dumped over by railroad tracks. And it was days later. I mean, they have no idea how she got there. They didn't know who she was. They somehow tracked where she had come from. And these guys, these officers, had to painstakingly go through days and days and days of video surveillance. I'm telling you, there's just so many cameras out there. Every building nowadays has a camera. You almost can't get away with, chopping somebody up anymore.
Called to apartment 6G after a neighbor heard gunshots and saw Johnson in and out of the apartment. She told the building super. When police entered the apartment, they found a man's torso and a foot inside a bin. Law enforcement sources say after seeing Johnson on surveillance footage, they searched his apartment and found the victim's legs, arms, and head in the freezer.
That's very...
Well, you don't want them to rot because they will stink. It takes a special person to dismember a body, and it takes a special lawyer to be able to get somebody out of something like that. There's just, how do you explain body parts in your freezer? Well, I'm a medical student. I'm just studying a little bit. No, that's not going to work. You know what? I have no idea how that got there. That's not going to work either. Fuck. And here's the thing. I make fun of it, and somebody did die. But in my business, you have to laugh. You got to find humor somewhere because it's so absurd. It's so disgusting. It's so gross. And it's just so sad, honestly, that somebody lost their life.
Disturbing.
Yeah.
It makes you want to move real quick.
Police say the victim is 44-year-old Colin Small. Sources say it's possible their dispute stemmed from time they spent together in prison. But folks in this neighborhood shocked to hear that a man who had worked so hard to turn his life around, even working with the Queen's Defender's Office, might have fallen back to his old ways in a very violent fashion.
Yes, he was turning his stuff around and stuff like that, but remember, we're creatures of habit.
That's how jurors think, honestly. It's common sense. We're creatures of habit. You go back to your old way of doing things. Although I don't remember him talking about chopping people up and putting them in his freezer. And so what Sheldon Johnson did, essentially, is traded his life for the life that he took. Because there's not going to be any way he's going to get out of this. It's called res ipsa loquitur. That's a Latin phrase that means the thing speaks for itself. So you find a fucking head in somebody's freezer, and you're the only one that lives there? 1 and 1 is 2. You probably did it. Anyway. But he's presumed innocent until the corpse proves him guilty. So we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you subscribe. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. Sign up for Patreon. And we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away.
23-hour lockdown, police is at my god.